Yep, I'm ready. Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Leesburg. I am Kristen Frangie, and I am the president of our Leadership Council, and I'm here to open our sacred space with you. And this year, our theme is 2020 Spiritual Vision. And the month of May, our focus is listening to your heart. I'm asking you right now to take a deep breath and settle more comfortably where you are. Either you're watching us live on Facebook, on Zoom, or on YouTube. Set an intention with me now to set sacred space, to bring our awareness of our unity and oneness, which is represented by this one lit candle. I invite you to close your eyes as we bless the service and our time together, focusing on that inner space. Let us recognize the divine presence that moves through all things and know that this presence of love expresses as each of us in unique and beautiful ways. I know that we are blessed by this time together and that we are each renewed in our remembrance of love, peace, wholeness, and connection. I give thanks to everyone in attendance and for everyone who made our service possible today, and especially for all the mothers. May the energy of love that is generated here bless us all abundantly. And so it is. If you have a prayer request or celebration, I invite you to write it in the chat or speak it into the space. You can request in our Zoom room, in chat, or speak it out loud. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can type in your request in the comments. And I'm just checking the chat. And if anyone needs a moment to phrase their prayer, I'll give you that moment.
Well, I have a celebration. We found out today that Connor finished all his finals, and he's a straight A student, and he's graduating. He was supposed to have his graduation next Saturday, but we're obviously not doing that. So what a great Mother's Day gift to have him be complete with at least half of he's got his associates, and he's moving on to finish his 40 per year degree. And I'm just really proud of all the work he's done. And so congratulations to Connor.
Awesome. And I see that there was another prayer request for Mary Segnar, I think I'm saying her name correctly, who needs healing in her lungs. All right, and I'm going to begin our treatment. But if you haven't spoken your prayer, know that it is known in the mind of oneness. And so simply close your eyes, connecting inward, recognizing with complete wholeness and knowing that there is only one spirit, a spirit that completes and fulfills and is and moves through us, as us in so many beautiful ways. The spirit lifts the heart, lifts each cell up, fills each cell with vital energy, holds the universe, the multiverse, connects us all in a fabric of life, of movement, of energy. And today I know in complete awareness that my heart is filled with joy. And I feel that we are connected in a joy for knowing celebrations that occur in many different families and in our own selves. And we feel the joy for Connor as he completes his graduation. We feel the joy for the life of mothers everywhere. Mothers are like the creative law, bringing into the world the love of life. We just feel gratitude for knowing that peace and that love and that joy. And I also know complete wholeness and health and healing for anyone who needs it, especially right now for a request for Mary. Seeing her lungs completely healed, seeing her body completely whole, healthy, and perfect. Lifting her up in prayer, we feel our hearts express and expand with gratitude for being able to share into the knowingness together and to be here now. And so it is with this treatment that I simply say it is complete. And we release. And so it is.
All I need is to breathe love in. 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 And I know that something beautiful is waiting to begin. All I need is to breathe love in. Breathe. All I need
Beautiful. Thank you, Patty and Brent. Well, good morning. What a beautiful way to set that stage of just breathing in that divine presence as we start this day today. Happy Mother's Day as we honor mothers. I confess I'm feeling a little tender today. It's an odd Mother's Day, isn't it? Many of us experiencing separations from our mothers or extended family in a way that we might not have thought we were going to be on this day, on this Mother's Day. And I'm grateful that I still have my mom and she's here with me today. And so part of that tenderness is the fact that, you know, she's 90 years old. And I know that these Mother's Days I have with her are, are, are fewer. And so I was thinking about my mother this morning and how grateful I am for her. I've been blessed by always feeling loved and cared for, especially from my mother. When I was growing up, my mother was the center of my universe. I just loved and adored her. I was like that little girl that was in a play at her church, and she was studying these lines. She had to share some lines of quotes of Jesus, but when she got up on stage, she kind of had stage fright and she forgot her lines. But her mother was sitting right in the front row, and she had been practicing with her, so she knew what her next line was. So she mouthed it. She said, "I am the light of the world." And the little girl saw her and her eyes lit up and she said, "My mother is the light of the world." And I was like that little girl, right? Um, just the light of my world growing up. And I remember one time my brother, who's older than me, who was angry at my mom. He was kind of having an argument, disagreement with her, and he was really mad at her. And I think I was probably trying to defend her. And he said, "You know, mom isn't as perfect as you think she is." And I can honestly say that moment, I had never thought of that before. I'd never thought that my mother couldn't be perfect. Uh, and of course, as I got older, I had my own experiences of the humanity of my mother, and through the years, we've obviously had our differences for sure. But it doesn't go unnoticed to me how blessed I've been to have that foundational love, to have experienced that unconditional love from my biological earthly mother. And I'm grateful for that. And as I know this, as I say that, I'm really clear that this isn't the case, right? For every person, probably not for everybody that's sitting right here in our little Zoom room or hearing us on Facebook. And I know that today can be really challenging for both men and women. It's not just women, but it could be because we had an absence of that unconditional love from our mother, or we've lost a mother, or we've, you know, as a woman, we might have had that experience of not having the experience of being a mother, and of course, the most painful, having experienced the loss of a child, and thus, of course, altering that experience of being a mother forever. And so today we add to that, of course, this pandemic and separation that might be keeping us from our loved ones from the celebration. And so, wow, you know, what a day of mixed emotions for all of us to celebrate and honor our mothers, and as a mother to be honoring that experience too, and also knowing that there's so many layers and so much emotions that can go on for us. And so I'm just really honoring wherever you are in your experience today. And I like what Oprah Winfrey said. She said, biology is the least of what makes someone a mother. And so we know that even if we've had a challenging experience with our mother, or there's always been somebody in our life that gave us that motherly love, that connected with us. And so whether that's your biological mother, your adopted mother, or a father, or a teacher, or, you know, somebody that's loved you, we just honor that experience of motherly love, however that came forward for each of us in our lives. And in that, I also want to honor this archetypical expression of mother love. I mean, that, you know, in the month of March, we spent the whole month talking about the divine feminine, which is really this sense of love. And Rumi said, "We are born of love. Love is our mother." So we're celebrating that big picture of love. And I really like what Paramahansa Yogananda says about this archetypical sense of love. He said, "The mother's love is not given to us to spoil us with indulgence, but to soften our hearts, that we may in turn soften others with kindness. In India, we speak of God as Mother Divine. Every mother is a manifestation of God's unconditional love. Although human mothers can be imperfect, Divine Mother is perfect. Mothers were created by God to show us that we are loved with or without cause. May all the sons and daughters of the world be filled with this motherly affection, which is the reflection of the Divine Mother's unconditional love. And may we give that unconditional motherly love to one another so that we have peace in heaven on earth. So we honor all mothers today and all those who mother, and we honor that bigger unconditional expression of love, that archetypical expression of mother. So you might have noticed, speaking of which, my mother is calling me right now on my phone. So I hope she's probably not watching it. What do you mean I wasn't pregnant? That's perfect. All right. So where was I? Okay. So you might have noticed on like it might have happened to a little fast, but on my title slide, I said Happy Mother's Day singular and Happy Mother's Day plural. And I every year, you know, if you've been around me or you've heard my Mother's Day talk, I always talk about the historical reference of Mother's Day and how important that is. And this morning in the newsletter that I get every morning, a letter to Americans by Heather Cox Richardson, she really brings forth these two ideas of honoring Mother's Day in the plural, our mothers, the mother's expression, but Mother's Day, I mean the singular, but Mother's Day plural has a different experience, a different history about that. And so what she says is both, she highlights the history of Mother's Day. She says both mother, the singular, and mother, the plural. She reminds us that Mother's Day, singular, began in 1908 when Anna Jarvis decided to honor her mother. But Mother's Day, plural, I mean, with apostrophe not in the singular spot, but in the plural, actually started in the 1870s when the sheer enormity, she says, of the death caused by the Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War convinced American women that women must take control of politics from the men who had permitted such carnage. Mother's Day in the plural was not designed to encourage people to be nice to their mothers. It was part of the women's effort to gain power to change modern society. So it was the combination of this motherly love and compassion and a rising up of empowerment that women experienced during this wartime. So during the Civil War, Heather Cox Richardson says that women had, you know, they really participated. They were really empowered. They had bought bonds, they paid taxes, they raised money, they managed farms, they harvested fields, they worked in the war industry, they reared the children and nursed the soldiers, and they were very actively involved. And when the war ended, they had this intention of continuing to participate in the national affairs. But the 14th Amendment, which established that African American men were citizens, did not include women. And of course, we know that it wouldn't include women for at least for 50 years from that point. So in 1869, women organized the National American Women's Suffrage Association and the American Women's Suffrage Association to promote women's rights and to have a say in the government. So this was the start of Mother's Day in the plural. It came from Julia Ward Howe, who you probably know her mostly from, she wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic in the early years of the Civil War. And she was a strong believer in women. And as mothers had a special role in our world. And Heather Cox Richardson says that for Howe, the Civil War had been traumatic, but that it led to emancipation, which justified its terrible bloodshed. She said that the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War in 1870 was another story, and she just couldn't see the sense in the slaughter. And she said, I was visited by a sudden feeling of the cruel and unnecessary character of the contest. It seemed to me a return to barbarism, the issue having been one which might easily have been settled without bloodshed. The question forced itself upon me, why do not the mothers of mankind interfere in these matters to prevent the waste of that human life of which they alone know and bear the cost? She wrote a paper called The Appeal to Womanhood Through the World, and it was actually translated in several languages. She talked about the influence mothers could have on their sons to stop the violence. And what struck me about this was that this writing, so there's my cat too. So a multitasking mother I am right in this moment. So She talked about the influence his mother can have on this. And what struck me about this writing was the compassion she had for the sons in other countries that were being killed by her American sons. You know, and this is this theme that we talk about all the time, right? Widening the circle. It's not just about me and mine and ours, but it's that understanding that interconnectedness of us, the oneness of us, and expanding that circle. And this happened for Julia. She had Robert's going to come and rescue the cat. She had a, all right. That's the fun of broadcasting from home, right? All right. This interconnectedness. We're all interconnected. And this is the line that stood out for me. It says, our sons, this is what Julia said. She said, our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity and mercy and patience. We, women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. Isn't that a beautiful thought? And this is what I want to talk about today, this compassion that rises up in us that is representative of the mother, right? The archetypical mother, the real mother, this idea that it's a part of all of us. We all have that divine feminine within us that brings forth compassion. And we combine that with honoring our mothers and the practice of compassion and love that is characterized by what Yogananda Paramahansa talked about, the divine mother, the divine mother. And when we do this, this is what listening to the heart is all about. When we drop in to listening to what our heart is sharing with us, it is always sharing a sense of compassion and care and love. And this listening to the heart is really our very first experience. The first sense to develop in the embryo is sound. So what's the first sound that we hear? Our mother's heartbeat, right? The heartbeat, the voice, that voice of the heart is primal. It's the wisdom and the guidance of this divine universal presence. It's where our intuition resides. It's ever speaking to us, guiding, imparting itself to us. And when we listen and pay attention to it, we can hear the call upon our lives. And oftentimes we don't stop, right, to take that time to listen because we're listening to everything in the outer world. But when we do listen, when we stop, we touch in to that expression of compassion and love that Julia Ward Howe had experienced in her practice of expanding. And when we practice this sense of compassion, we begin to listen to others. We listen to our hearts, but we listen to others. It opens us up in a more authentic and compassionate way out in the world. And when we open our hearts to love and compassion, it doesn't just to support them. As we know, we're all interconnected. It's good for us, and it's good for us physically. It's good for our physical health. I love the work of Joe Dispenza, and he's done so much research on this. And he shared recently in one of his newsletters about how his research has to demonstrate, he says, after just 4 days of opening your heart, which he talks about as just connecting into that fourth chakra, if you want to call it that, just that activating that elevated emotions of love and compassion. He says something extraordinary happens. The body starts releasing an antibody made from your own immune cells, white blood cells, called immunoglobulin A, it's called. And he said that they've witnessed and scientifically measured how in less than 1 week we can strengthen our immune system without any other outside causes by as much as 50%. What is it that we're needing to do in this day and age, right? Right in this moment. What does a pandemic need us to do? It needs us to boost our immune system, to strengthen our immune system. So Joe Dispenza says one of your body's best natural defenses against bacteria and viruses is feeling elevated emotions such as love and gratitude and appreciation and connection and compassion. He goes on and says that because the body is so objective, when you can trade your survival related emotions like fear and anger and pain and sadness, and instead manufacture and embody these elevated emotions like love and joy and gratitude, the feeling of love and wholeness causes the body to believe it's out of danger. And this is what we talk about all the time, right? that our, our brains, our bodies don't know that they don't make a difference between what we're thinking about, what we're visualizing, and what is actually happening. Our body can react in the same way. And so just by doing that, it relaxes our bodies. And, I've often said that by meditating, by doing the work that we do, it makes us smarter, because our our body is not doing everything to try to keep us in survival mode, and so it relaxes, so it allows us to have clarity, allows us to be able to access that sense of compassion and love. It actually lowers our blood pressure. It activates all kinds of ways that can create a stronger immune system for us. And so that's an amazing thing, right? This interconnectedness that we have, that it's not just about being kind and generous to other people, which it is about, but that it's a two-way street, right? It works for both. It works. The best of all worlds is when we can exude and express that sense of love and kindness and compassion. It supports all of us, all of us. And so that's the beauty of this day, I think, that it honors our mothers in their physical form, and honors all that we do and express, but it also brings forth this idea of this divine, compassionate presence that lives with all of us, and the power and the power that we have to access that just by simply being a place of blessing and love in our world. Just by being a place of blessing. And so your practice this week in celebration and honor of this, of both Mother's Day plural and Mother's Day singular, is to practice this art of blessing. Remember when we had the book study on the gentle art of blessing by Pierre Prandervan? So he talks about, every moment just blessing. He says, I'm meeting people, and this includes meeting people on Zoom, right? It means being able to look people in the eye on Zoom and bless them in their health and their work and their joy, their relationships to the universe. He says, to themselves and others, bless them in the abundance and their finances, bless them in every conceivable way. For such blessings not only sow seeds of healing, but one day will spring forth as flowers in the waste places of your own life. Pierre Pradervan talks about how he was, he got fired and he was an angry man, and he was just everything. He was getting divorced, and then when he started blessing people. He started being thankful for them. He started and not just the people that he knew, the ones that he needed to release, but strangers, on the bus and in the car. And all of a sudden, his life changed dramatically just by activating that sense of compassion, activating, listening to that heart, and finding that divine love that is right there. There's a poem by Howard Thurman entitled More Loving in My Heart. It's from his book, The Inward Journey. And he talks about this idea of being flooded with this love and his desire to be more loving. I want to share a little bit of it for you. He says, I want to be more loving in my heart. It is often easy to have the idea in mind, to plan to be more loving, to see it with the mind and give assent to the thought of being loving. This is crystal clear, but I want to be more loving in my heart. I must feel that loving. I must ease the tension in my heart that ejects the sharp barb, the stinging word. I want to be more loving in my heart, that with unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be kind, a gracious human being. Thus, those who walk the path with me may find it easier to be loving, to be gracious, because of the love of God, which is increasingly expressed in my living. I want to be more loving in my heart. And I love that it continues that theme of when I'm more loving in my heart, it allows others to be loving. Because what do we know? That there's this law of circulation in our life, law of cause and effect. What we're putting out in the world comes back to it. And so I really encourage you. I'd love to hear back this next week as as you do this. Just practice this art of blessing, just reaching out. And again, we know we need to bless the people that we're living with right now, right? in our physical worlds, and blessing those we see on Zoom, and blessing those we see at the grocery store, and blessing those that we see still driving on the streets, all of those things, just practicing that art of blessing throughout your week. And then let's come back together next week and talk about how that experiences has affected you. And remember, after 4 days, your immune system is going to be stronger. And we all can use that right now, right? So I want to go back to this idea, this idea of the divine feminine, this motherly love. And I love this story that John Heffernan shares. I've shared it with you before, but it's such a great way to end this time together, to bring it back to the idea of this divine feminine and how it's a part of us, how God is a part of us. And so John Heffernan says, try, if you will, to imagine the most beautiful and perfect tiny baby you've ever seen, only a few days before birth, still in the womb. Imagine that you can communicate with this little one and you ask the question, what is your world like? Listen carefully and you'll hear, my world is a wonderful world. Here I am, snug and cozy and warm. I'm surrounded with love and my every need is provided for, even before the need exists. I hope I can stay here forever. Now you ask the question, where is your mother? What does she look like? You can imagine the little facial expression changing to one of quandary. Listen again and you hear, my mother? I don't know what you're talking about. What is a mother? Do I have one? You smile to yourself as you realize this little one cannot possibly know anything about her mother till long after she's born and she's learned of this parent-child relationship. And yet, she will never be any closer to her mother than she is right now, since she lives and moves and has her being within her own mother. He says that this is very much like my concept of God. We live, we move, and have our being in this God, and yet we know very little more about God than does the unborn child, unborn baby, know about its own mother. So let's just take this idea in as we go forth in our day. Let us move into our time of prayer, of just feeling into the divine presence that moves through all things, and how we are so surrounded by it. We're like this unborn child that doesn't even know, is not even aware that we are being supported and loved and connected to this divine presence. And to know that within our own hearts is this very expression of this love and the power that we have to generate this compassion and this kindness. Take a nice deep breath in and just breathe it down into that heart space and allow yourself to listen. Listen to what the heart is saying. Feel that awareness of this divine love, this caring, this compassion. And if it's hard to do, imagine right now, just bring forward in your own mind someone or something that you have loved beyond condition. Maybe a child, maybe a pet, maybe your own mother, it may be, a place where you just feel this sense of love, and allow that loving energy to permeate your very being, your very heart space. Now imagine that there's someone in your life or something that feels that exact same way about you. And allow yourself to receive it. Receive that unconditional love. You might not even know where it's coming from. You might know exactly where it's coming from, but it might just be the divine loving you unconditionally. Unconditionally. Allow that energy to fill up your heart and radiate out through your very being, this feeling of unconditional love, of being unconditionally loved. And as we do this, let us just ripple out into our room, in our Zoom room, or on Facebook, or whomever might be in the room with you, or just visualize us back in our space, and just allow that energy to bubble up and move through the room, the virtual room, this connected space that we're all in. Blessing everybody that's a part of this experience. And then let us just expand our expression to our own homes, our own neighborhoods, our own state. Again, blessing, just sending blessings. You might think of somebody this week that have frustrated you, or that you didn't understand, or you had a conflict with, and just send some blessings right at this very moment of seeing them as unconditionally loved. Let us expand to our capital and to all those who are making decisions. And let's just bless all the governors in the US and the leaders in other parts of the world who are making decisions and bringing forth wise choices to keep us safe and to help us in all the ways that are necessary to move through this time and beyond. Let us bless not only our space, but let's just expand this whole world. And there might be a place on this planet that you know of that is needing extra support, extra love, extra compassion, extra understanding of that divine essence that moves through them as well. Let us lift them up. And as we breathe ourselves back into this room, just notice, you might place your hand on your heart and just notice if there's any shift within you. In that very moment, we have expanded our love, our unconditional love. We have allowed our immune system to strengthen. We've calmed any stress. And it's from this place that we speak this word, that I speak this word for each of us, that there is this divine presence, this loving essence, this compassionate Mother, Father, God that moves through all life and moves through me in this very moment. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to know it and to speak this word for and with each person within the sound of my voice, that there's a divine presence that moves through each of us in the most powerful and beautiful way. And that as we go about our week, let us keep consciously aware of this compassionate aspect of ourselves, that the work of the women's movement, the work of bringing this compassionate mother love into the world is ours to do, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you've understand it in any other way than just in this very moment. It is ours to do, to keep continuing this vision of a compassionate, loving, healthy world. And so it's with great gratitude that I do give thanks for all the mothers in the world, all those who have chosen to support and lift up and love our children. And that includes biological mothers, adopted mothers, teachers and friends and aunts and grandmothers and fathers and men as well, that this motherly energy is within all of us. And so we're just so grateful for however it is that our world has continued forth, but from the good of this nurturing, loving essence, which we see in this archetypical mother. And so it's with gratitude that I release this word into the law, knowing that it is already done. I wait with joyous anticipation to hear how this word has moved forth in everybody else's life, knowing more love, more compassion, more peace, more health. And so it's with joy that I do let it go. I let it be. And we know this together by simply saying, and so it is. So it is. Patty and Brent are going to sing for us again. And Patty, if you have a chance, you might want to turn up the volume just a little bit. It was a little low.
You might not want it up for this one.
No.
Just a little bit more.
You asked for it. No. Can you say it?
We can always turn you down on our side. We have the power.
We got the power. Okay, can you hear me now? Let's try that. All right. Here we go. Is it my turn? I'll go now. Love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. My troubles fade and my heart is strong.
love is leading me on. And when my day feels like an empty cup, love is leading me on. I open up and let love fill me up, and love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. Oh yes, love is leading me on. My troubles fade and my heart is strong, and love is leading me on. I feel my sorrow and I know my fear, and love is leading me on. But I know God is love and right in here, and love is leading me on. Love is leading me on. Oh yes, love is leading me on. My troubles fade and my heart is strong, and love is leading me on. My troubles fade. My troubles fade and my heart is strong, and love is leading me on.
All right, thank you. Love it. All right. So this is our time of sharing of our gifts. We just so appreciate your continued support of CSL Leesburg during this virtual time. And so we just know that we are a blessing to the world. And so we make it really easy for you to donate. You can donate text, by Cash App, by mailing address, if you just want to write a good old-fashioned check, or by PayPal. And so we're just so grateful for all that you share with us. And so whatever it is, symbolically, you can place it over your heart, and let's just say this blessing out loud. The presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact. Therefore, I am a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. We all live in this day for a reason. We're all here for that reason. And Patty and Brent are going to sing our gratitude song.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Oh yes, I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see love reflecting, shining back at me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and the peace that gratitude brings. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Oh yes, I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Every day I wake before I open my eyes, I count my blessings and I realize life is a miracle when you see it that way. I focus on the beauty, that's why I have to say I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Oh yes, I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Oh yes, I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right, thank you so much. Yay. We're all grateful. All righty, so we just have our announcements of our weekly meditations are continuing. I'm so grateful for our practitioners, Charlene and Nam Shakti, for your Tuesday morning and your Thursday morning. So if you haven't had a chance to join that, please do so and enjoy those meditations. All right, so this is a time of our pearls, and I'd love to hear what you're taking away today. And also, if you have a pearl you want to share about your own mother or experience that you might have around mothers, that would be lovely. So who would like to share? Maybe Shar, you can take it off of for us. We can see.
Yeah, sure. Let's see everybody.
Yeah.
Are we muted?
Yep, you're fine. I can hear you.
Oh, I love the part. I'm now going to lose the phrase. It was the third point. It was about seeing, what was it? Seeing something in your heart. What was that? Seeing gratitude in your heart. No, seeing the love in your heart, like visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cool. I haven't really done that before. And that's a great exercise, you know, that kind of love, to picture it within your own heart. I thought that was cool.
Thank you, Aaron.
I liked what you, I never heard that historical part of Mother's Day.
Yeah. It was a political thing, really.
Great.
And Hallmark got a hold of it, right?
Yeah. Thank you for introducing us to Heather Cox Richardson. She's really got a lot to offer, you know?
Yeah. History is important.
Yes.
Karen, are you going to share something?
I'm just grateful for today. I have somebody on the other side of my screen who's making me a Mother's Day celebration. And I also love the connection of, you know, having that the open heart really changes your body's physiology. So it's the physiology not only of the making you, helping your immunities, but the physiology of being open, and so that in this connectedness we are also able to receive a different type of energy. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza, good stuff.
Anyone else?
I would just like to thank Patty and Brent. Good music, as usual.
Yes.
2 thumbs up.
And I'll thank Robert for going and opening the pickle jar that my mother needed opening. That's why she called. Life goes on. Anything else? Anything? Any special Mother's Days or anything going on for you?
I have 2 new mothers in my life. I talked last week about them. My sons,
Yes.
they have to be mothers as well.
Yeah.
So I sent them a Mother's Day card.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Ready to get out and go to do your Mother's Day thing? All right. Patty and Brent, you want to sing us out?
We're going to change things up a little bit.
I'm going to move so I'm not a distraction.
Blessed always, for the love of God surrounds us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen.
Beautiful. And so just place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and say, I am love. Open your eyes and look around wherever you are. If you're not looking at anybody, still know in your heart, you are love. You are love, everybody. It's all love. Go out and be that blessing this week. Be that motherly, lovely, loving blessing to everybody this week. Thank you all. And stick around if you're on Zoom so we can have a little chat, see how everyone's doing. And if not, have a beautiful Mother's Day.